Facts.
Trying to sit here and, I was wondering the other day when I was looking up in the sky and saw all the clouds in the sky kind of passing by, and I just wondering, what's this all about? Well, one day I'm doing baseball, and then I met the Crockett's, and then I'm doing wrestling, and then I start having a family, and the next thing I know, I'm in Georgia, and I just wonder, there's a lot of questions in the universe you have to ask yourself sometimes, and
Like fucking magnets. How do they work?
yeah, that's one. I guess I didn't think about that, but let's talk
Yeah.
about magnets if you want to.
I'm down. Yeah.
Yeah. How do they work? You know, you know,
I don't know. I was hoping at your advanced age you could tell us. You're
yeah,
like the Mr. Wizard, of all things
yeah,
hillbilly science. Like
right,
I was looking at
right,
my back porch and I saw they got this tree kind of hanging over the lake and
right.
got the leaves starting to fall off and the branches are hanging lower to the water and
Yeah,
it was a pretty tall tree.
yeah.
And I started looking at the tree and I started thinking about your Paul Orndorff story. And I think I might actually call that the Orndorff tree.
The Orndorff tree. Yeah.
Why don't you just, for some of our listeners who may be new to the show, maybe not day one listeners, could you explain what an Orndorff tree might be?
I was having dinner with Paul Orndorff in Orlando. This was back when we were doing our TV shows in Orlando, WCW, and we were having dinner. It was a couple of us, and we were talking about all the silly things we did when we were a kid. And Paul looked at me very seriously. He said, "Did you ever climb a tree and take a shit once you got up to the up, way far in the tree, take a shit just to see what it looked like falling to the ground?" And I went, "No, no. Does any has any human being, Paul, except you, done that?" And he just kind of looked away, like, "Well, I probably shouldn't have said that about the way I am." But yeah, Paul shits up a tree, down a tree. Did
I
rest
love
in
it
peace.
so much.
Rest in peace, Paul Orndorff. By the way, I know that DJ Turnup is here, and
Oh, hell yeah, he is.
the only reason DJ Turnup is here is that he has sent me a countdown, a couple of them, and he wants to hear it. DJ, I do not have your countdown loaded for tonight. I'll try to get it loaded next week. And what we have to do with DJ Turnup is we have to um, load his countdown, send it to our friends, and have them check it now for being able to use it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
because of YouTube.
because of YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, listen, we appreciate the love and the collaboration. It's always fun to hear something new from DJ Turnup. And if I had to guess, it's probably you speaking very inappropriately. There's probably some dirty language.
I
I'm
don't
telling you.
remember me doing that, but if that's what you say, then that's what you say.
Here's what I say
Yeah.
as everybody's listening to this. How fucking excited are you, Tony, that we are done with political ads?
Isn't it wonderful?
Ah, just let it be over with. And as folks are listening to this, no more political ads. Praise be.
Did you get a lot
And
of junk mail? Political
yeah, I
junk
get a
mail?
lot of junk mail. I get a lot of junk text messages. But
Yeah.
the deal is, over the weekend, most of the things I watch, I can just DVR and fast forward the commercials. Like even wrestling, that's usually how I watch it. But for football, you kind of got to watch it live. And so I've been doing the YouTube football TV gimmick. So you got 4 games at once.
Mhm.
So I'm not really watching any commercials, but I found myself at a bar restaurant over the weekend, really excited to watch Texas A&M and South Carolina.
Mhm.
And dude, every commercial in the stop set for every single break was the same political stuff. It's like, I've never wanted a dick pill commercial so bad in my life.
Well, it's not really going to probably get much better.
Yeah.
As you and I are recording this, we have no idea what the election is going to bring on a national level or a local level, but it's going to be a fucking mess wherever it is. And I'm just so glad again that I'm the age that I am, and so I'll die soon, and all you young fuckers can deal with this stuff, and I won't have to.
Tony, who was your favorite president as a kid? I'm not saying once you became an adult, but like when you're a little kid and you're just learning about presidents, there's George Washington and there's Abraham Lincoln and all that.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite as a kid?
Well, oddly enough, when I was when I was a kid, it was Richard Nixon.
Really?
Yeah. Um,
Can you do a Richard Nixon impression?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's just because my mom and dad were Republicans, and they had they had George Wallace, who's from your state. He was running against them as an independent, and then I believe Hubert Humphrey was running against him at one time, and then of course Nixon, went down, and and that's what I remember. I can remember this, and let's have this be the end of it. I was 5 years old, had just turned 6,
5 years old.
just turned 6, and I remember distinctly playing on the floor of the living room, and a flash came across that President Kennedy had been shot.
Oh, wow.
And my mom couldn't believe it, so she walked in and she had to wash her hair. Now, I don't know how it is these days, but back in those days, a lot of women would go to the kitchen sink and wash their hair.
What do you mean you don't know how it is these days? You have a wife.
Yeah, she doesn't wash her hair in the kitchen sink.
Okay.
So mom would wash her hair in the kitchen sink, and I remember hearing that he had died. And I walked in the kitchen, and there was a hot water heater, had a very small kitchen, and there was a sink, and mom was washing her hair. And I stood right between the hot water tank and the sink. I looked up at mom, said, "Mom, they just said he died." She went, "No, they didn't." I said, "Yes, they just said he died." And she dried her, rinsed out, dried her hair off, and ran in and sat in front of the TV with me. And that's one of those things that, I mean, I'm 6 years old and I remember that. Isn't that amazing?
Deal. It's a
Yeah.
big deal.
It was a big part of, and is a big hard part of the history of this country. So yeah, he was there when I was 6, and then of course Lyndon Johnson, and on and on and on from there. So
Well, listen, I'm glad that you're here with us today. Of course, we're excited to be talking about a little Ring of Honor action today, Tony. Um, this is a special match we're going to watch today because this show in particular was all about Samoa Joe and Kobashi, and it was like an all time classic. I mean, I remember the date that the show went down. It was October 1st, 2005, and those really important matches, they make an impression. People remember them for a long time, sort of like Labor Day weekend 2020, the Mimosa Mayhem match.
yeah.
I mean, think about how many little kids will never forget the very first Mimosa Mayhem match.
Well, I know you won't, because you bring it
No.
up about every other week.
Well, it's the best match in AEW history.
Well, there's been other great matches, but that has to rank with one of the most memorable. And to me, that just shows you the genius of Chris Jericho, because Chris Jericho knows how to do things that will stick in your memory.